It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to The Focus Group. John Nash here with my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. Looking, I think the British word is nappy today. Is that the word they use? Nap?
Could be dapper.
K-N-A-P-H?
Dapper?
K-N-A-P-F?
Nappy.
Nap, something like that, yeah.
Dashing, maybe.
But it means dashing. It means like put together. You know, you're wearing a little tie.
Well, I was
today.
disappointed because it was supposed to. So I would never wear a tie, but can you see my tie?
But you are wearing a tie.
But I have to go to this thing with Chita Rivera with Richard tonight. He got tickets, and you know I would rather go to Baghdad than to go to see Chita Rivera.
A cabaret.
54 Below. And so, but you and I will get to hang out for the afternoon, and then the long night starts.
I am telling you that you are going to have a great time.
I won't.
You are going to enjoy the show. And then you're just going to crash, and tomorrow you could relax. And
I wouldn't know Chita Rivera if I fell over. Would you know her?
But you did see. You thought you saw Tommy Tune on the sidewalk.
Well, he's probably there for the show.
Chita Rivera at the cabaret.
And I laughed when I put this tie on because I thought of you, John. You know whose tie this is?
Whose? Oh, the little frogs are on it, right?
Yep. Someone famous I did a TV commercial with.
You did it.
Or no, I didn't. I helped produce it. I wasn't in it. Athlete. I thought it was going to be no, she wasn't
Lance?
wearing Lance's tie. This is Lance Armstrong's tie.
What do you mean it's his tie? Did he wear it?
He wore the tie in the commercial, and then he just threw it when he was done. He just because he had to go
eat with his hands,
see his girlfriend or whatever he was going to do, and so the tie went away. And I said, "Who's going to take that tie?" And the production staff's like, "Oh, the maid or whoever. You want it?"
It's a wardrobe. Yeah.
So I took the tie, and then I thought at one time of selling it. Of course, this stuff is worth pennies on the dollar now.
after they stripped him of the multiple.
I looked on
tours.
eBay to see if his stuff was worth anything. No. You can't give it away.
No. So that was from the shoot where he goes boo.
Well, when we found out he couldn't act.
He couldn't. Yeah. And the other thing you found out was he eats with his hands.
He and Robin Williams, that whole troupe, eats with their hands. Don't wait for anyone else to be served, by the way. Just arrives and they eat. So that's his tie. So I laughed when I put it on. I thought, well, it's got a little green in it. Looks
good. You look very and we're sticking with the color schemes that you've approved.
Navy blue,
solid tones, and you and Paul and Mass are two of the only people that can now, you give input and I try to follow the input.
Well, Paul and Mass, he tells you right away whether you can. He actually mentioned good wardrobe last week or something. I forget exactly what he did.
So I went out and I realized that patterns are dangerous, but you have. My favorite was I had a green shirt in my hand. And it was a really great green shirt. And I said, Bob, what do you think? And he just stares at me for a minute. He goes, you can't wear that. And I said, why? He goes, you can't wear green. I'm like, oh,
it'll come out gray, won't it?
No, we'll come out transparent. You'd see right through me.
Interesting. I think
in fact, last week when we had the cans of the soda, the vodka and the soda, John and Garrett, hey, our team we want to say in the booth on the bridge.
I was reprimanded for saying on the booth last week. So you said on the bridge.
I like the bridge. They're in control.
Either is fine, but I like the bridge because it's Star Trek-y.
Yes,
but I guess
exactly, John. Thank you.
Technically, it's a booth. Garrett doesn't like that.
Garrett's with me. Boys in the booth.
So John and John are lined up. Garrett and Tim are lined up. So we have John on video. We have Garrett on audio.
Where's Allie?
Allie took a little break, but she's usually in there as well.
So she's getting chicken fingers and French fries.
It's a food crime day, I see. So last week, while we were having our cocktails, these cans would start appearing graphically on screen. Now, the can was green and white.
Right.
The real can, if you noticed, your actual can, you could see right through the bottom of it.
Oh, really?
Because it had the green and it was chroma keyed, yeah.
I didn't notice.
It was a
little
fun
embarrassed
show.
by that show.
I noticed you didn't...
No, we did our promos and stuff, but we got reprimanded by some listeners that we've talked too much politics, maybe.
On that show, did we?
Or other shows, I guess. I don't know. Are we doing too many I don't think we're doing that much politics.
Where
you can't miss it.
Where politics intersects business, which is often, I think we have a that's our purview. We can definitely talk about
Today's
that.
all business today, isn't it?
Today's all business. Joining us later in the broadcast is Amy DiPierro, and she is the real estate and business reporter at the Desert Sun out in Palm Springs, and she's going to talk to us about a partnership that is trying to build a LGBT retirement community or condo complex, I guess but it's more of a community, right?
Yeah.
So she's going to join us to talk about that and the unique nature of Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley in general. And then Tim found a great article. I think once a year we do something like this with brands.
Yeah, there's every year there's a prediction of the brands that are going to go away. So the brands and demise. So we're going to run through quickly the 20. There's 20 of them, but we're not going to hit all 20. But these are brands that they predict will not survive 2018. It's from a website called The Cheat. I think it's The Cheat Paper. Or maybe it's just The Cheat. I wrote it down. Of course, I can't find it. But
and the amazing thing about that is you have your command console, your desk. You have your little piles of paper. You're all set up.
It's the cheat sheet. What did I say? The cheat paper. It's a cheat sheet. Yeah. Every year they do it. They predicted things like I guess Blockbuster, but Helen Keller could have predicted Blockbuster, Tower Records. Things like that. Some of the brands I was surprised about, but we'll do that after our guest is on.
Speaking of brands, did you notice that Apple and Google fell from the top 10 in brand reputation this year?
No.
Walmart is near the top. I forget who else is in the top 5, but Apple took a pretty big hit.
Why is that? New phone?
No. The theory is that they took a hit in reputation, at least from the Consumer Reputation Index, based on their revelation or their admitting that they throttled the battery. So as the battery in a phone starts to not keep its charge, it actually slows the system down. Now, once they revealed that, they also then said, okay, we're going to have a program where you can come in and have your battery replaced for $20 or $30. Now, that literally makes an old device new again. Like when I had my phone replaced because it was a warranty.
Well, I was supposed to do that. You said I have to do that. Or am I
you're
too
under
late?
warranty. No, you're under warranty, and we'll double check it, and we'll back up your phone, and then it will be like a new device because that new battery suddenly changes everything. And hey, look, if, you and I have this. I have this thing. I used to love being on the cutting edge of technology. I loved it. Yeah. Now I'm tired of it.
Well, I
am tired of it. If my phone lasts for another 4 years and it does what it does, I'll be perfectly happy.
I don't need to keep updating. I know you do like. I'm surprised. There's a couple things I'm surprised about. One of them is that you didn't get the Apple Watch. I thought for sure when that Apple Watch came out that you did the hardcore press, which I'm glad you did
on the iPad. Yeah, which we love.
But I'm wondering when the wheels, because eventually they will, right? The wheels are going to fall off now that Jobs is gone. There's probably no discipline there with Cook.
I don't know. I would say that there is discipline because Apple's coming up on $1 trillion valuation. I mean, it's one of the most valuable companies in the world. So the backbone of the business is now the iPhone. And I will say I do spend money on the machines that we use, a laptop, for instance, because from a productivity point of view, upgrading more frequently in that area yields faster times to render video, because we do a lot of our own production work, so that's a very useful thing. I don't mind doing that, but devices and phones, I'm tired of it, Well,
and I still don't use my phone for the internet scrolling or any of that stuff. I know everybody does use their phone. I feel like an old salt. I take out my iPad and people look at me like I've got a Walkman. I take it out on the train and everyone's got their little phones and I've got the.
I was at the library the other day because I had to be in Midtown for some meetings, and I went to the main library on 42nd Street in front of Bryant Park. And by the way, it's an interesting building. It's filled with tourists, and then there's the reading room, and the reading room is on the top floor. It's a gorgeous, huge space with high ceilings and a painted ceiling like a fresco. Big, long oak tables, comfortable chairs, lights. It's a reading room. And what I notice is the variety of technology that people use, and I've seen a lot of this. Either it's a Microsoft Surface, which is one of those, it's like an iPad with a laptop kind of combination. But I see a lot of people with iPads set up, and then they have a keyboard as a separate thing. So they're using the iPad as a productivity device with the keyboard. And then you just see, then everywhere you look, I'd say 8 out of 10 laptops, you see the Apple. Then you'd see an IBM or a Lenovo.
I hate the loud typer.
Yeah.
Or the woman with her nails. Doesn't that drive you crazy?
And in the library, you really hear it because
I mentioned this to you, so I'm going to post it to our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. So somebody did I think it was in Europe, but they did a library scene like you like you mentioned.
They bring a typewriter.
Brought a typewriter in. So it's at this university, and all the kids are huddled around their MacBooks and their computers and whatever. And this kid walks in, just looks like the rest of them, opens up his typewriter and starts typing in the
Is it
library.
electric or?
No.
It's like a royal typewriter.
And everybody's looking at him, and people are kind of watching him, and then somebody's taking a video of him, taking pictures. And somebody goes over and goes, could you please stop doing that or do it somewhere else? And he says, I'm sorry, I can't afford a MacBook. I mean, like he said, I can't afford. And then they feel sorry for the guy, but he stays there. People move away, whatever, but it's hilarious. And you think about it, right? He brought that in and just starts typing away. So I'll post that because you'll get a kick out of it.
That's a smart one. That's a smart. Now imagine hauling around remember the electric typewriter?
Heavy.
And you would borrow one from a friend. Like I had a Royal, I had a manual, but then, there was always the white out. And then I remember one day a friend of mine says, you want to borrow the electric, it was a Smith Corona with the cartridge system. And it came in that plastic case. And once you cased it up, the thing weighed,
a ton.
do you want to say 25 or 30 pounds?
At least. Our friend Jay had one. She'd drag it around campus.
It was a metal chassis, right? And then when you plugged it in, it made that the humming noise, and it would wind down.
Whiteout tape. Back.
Do you remember typing your papers and you'd get almost the bottom of a page? Something was wrong. You missed a paragraph. Oh, God.
Well, that's why I think now it's a lot easier because it's so much easier now to cut out a sentence or to move something or the spell check. I remember reading something late at night because we were always procrastinating, right? So you would find a spelling mistake. You'd be like, oh.
I got to retype the whole page.
How are you going to do it? And then I would actually just type the sentence and I'd spend hours trying to figure out how I'm going to tape it in there and then take it to the
photocopy
25 cents and get a photocopy.
It was 25 cents.
You have to type the whole paper over again.
And it was a Xerox.
Yeah.
It was not, and the machine was a Xerox that you got
Order
the
a copy.
copy on.
Yeah, but all the good old days.
Hey, well, I read an interesting article by a guy who said he would love to go back to the analog days. He goes, give me a phone that's attached to a cord on a wall, I'll take it any day. Give me a TV that had 6 channels in a little box I have to click. He said, because everything else is just taking people away from, their day-to-day.
Well, I think I told you, I don't know, maybe we discussed it on another show. The Germans have gone to typewriters
for their
lots of the senior top-level, top-secret stuff because they can't get hacked.
Yeah, which makes sense.
So they're just, typing out letters and getting them moved around that way.
Hand-delivered.
Hand-delivered instead of trying to...
Snail mail instead of email.
Have Vladimir tap into it.
All right, so what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So mine was... It's a business story that I thought I initially read it and I was surprised by it. So I didn't realize this. Kegs of beer. You buy kegs of beer in metal.
Yes, and they usually had 1 or 2 sizes, like smaller cylinder. Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you know there's only one keg maker left in America? So it says America's last keg maker, American Keg Company of Pottstown, Pennsylvania, may get tapped out by new tariffs. So they obviously you make the kegs out of steel.
Yeah.
And so they were excited because they thought that these new tariffs might help with making them more competitive because right now the Germans, the French, and the Chinese make what they call undercut or imported cheap kegs for $20 less than they can be made in the U.S. So they'll make the keg
$20 per keg.
Per keg. So the French, the Chinese, the Germans will send kegs in to the U.S. to one of the over 7,000, craft beer breweries or whatever, and they'll charge $95 for the keg, where these guys charge $115. So it's $20 more. So if say you were a brewery and you did 5,000 kegs, you're now going to be $100,000 more.
Oh,
that's a lot of money.
And you got to build that back to the customer, right?
They said, and so he's concerned. He said what they're upset about. Everybody was excited about these new tariffs, so we put a 25% tariff on imported steel and 10% on aluminum. And they said that's all well and good, but the president of this company, the CEO of American Keg Company, Paul, and I'll say his name wrong, Zachor, it's C-Z-A-C-H-O-R. He says what nobody understands is that all that's going to do is just raise the price of steel in the U.S.
Yeah.
He said because the market's going to eventually just all get to the same place where steel. He says what the tariff should have done is looked at downstream products. He said, for example, if the Chinese make lockers for a high school, you can import them with no tariff. He said, so you're still bringing in cheap steel, but you're bringing in a cheap product.
Manufactured.
So they're still using cheap steel in China and bringing it in, and they're not eligible for the tariff. So
the tariff.
The tariff is only on raw materials. And they said the big mistake that the government made in hastily doing this tariff was that the new steel tariffs apply only to metal in a raw or unfinished form, like a rolled steel or steel plate or tube. It doesn't apply to any finished products made of steel, like a beer keg, door hinges, pails, lockers, that sort of thing. And he said, had they looked and thought further downstream, they call it, he said it would have been helpful to us, but they're concerned that it's going to put them out of business. He said tariffs on downstream products are still made with cheap overseas steel, so raising or putting the tariff on the raw material doesn't really help them. So they were concerned about it. I thought it was an interesting article because the guy was he's already had to lay off some people. He said right now he's losing $50,000 to $100,000 a month to the Chinese and the Germans, which I thought was a lot of money. I put in the note, get out of business.
You wrote that in the margin,
Yeah.
Well,
if you're losing $50,000 to $100,000 a month because you're not competitive, so then I started thinking about it. If you look at it, so if that keg is $20 more, and you do want to buy American, he said a lot of people want to buy American, but there becomes a point where it's just a bad business decision. If 5,000 kegs, you're now $100,000 per 5,000 kegs is a lot of money. That's a couple of employees. That's
what's fascinating
healthcare benefits.
about that,
that's a bunch of things.
His focus and your explanation of the downstream products, it makes a hell of a lot more sense than tariffing the raw material, right?
Yeah.
Especially the example you gave of if a company has bought like lockers for a high school. That's not a small thing, and you have with all the kids, and that's an infrastructure thing. It's still made of steel.
Yep.
It's going to come from China, but it's not getting tariffed because guess what? It's manufactured, and it's so on a political side, we don't have to talk politics, but I just feel that things nowadays are getting done in a thoughtless manner. And it's not, it sounds great, like he said, but had this been a little more nuanced policy, they could have probably got downstream.
Yeah, he said if you looked at it, he said it's one thing to say, okay, we don't want somebody to bring in cheap steel.
No.
That's all well and good, but if you could still bring in the product then, it doesn't help out the American manufacturer. He said it's counterintuitive, but what's end up going to happen, he said, all the prices, he said U.S. steel prices will go up. So we'll help U.S. steel, we'll help the U.S. steel manufacturers, but people that actually build these products, which they call downstream or I guess more utilitarian products, a metal pail, that's door hinges. He said that stuff is still going to be able to come in. He said if they took a more holistic approach and talked to maybe some of the manufacturers to say, hey, here's an issue here. There's still a lot of this stuff that can come in that's built with cheap steel. That's where we should be putting the tariffs on. It would have been more helpful.
I suspect that to some people, that's a gray area, and it seems it's far more effective to just say something one day, 5 days later, do it without a meeting, without getting heads of industry together.
Well, I always think that about the dollar stores. If you go to a dollar store, I'm amazed at some of the stuff that you can buy for $1 there because I'm thinking that's made in China. It's got to be manufactured. Loaded, shipped, take the boat ride, get unloaded, get put into the store, it's $1.
Yeah.
So I buy glasses there all the time.
Glasses.
Don't buy candy and stuff, though. That's a ripoff. They don't put a lot in there. It's a big package.
You mean glasses like in glasses?
Like a water glass, drinking glass.
All right.
What caught your eye?
Mine was a business story as well, actually, and the headline reads, a passenger sued Northwest Airlines for exactly $74,999.99.
Northwest or Southwest?
Southwest Airlines.
Because you said Northwest, and I looked at the
sorry,
plane.
and there's a picture there. And it's totally brilliant. Here's why.
74999.
And actually what I didn't put in there was 74999.99. He was a penny away from 75,000. So this came from Inc. magazine, and the author of the piece, who teaches law, actually said there's a reason that the plaintiff did this. And it's a very arcane one. He said everybody would look at that and say, well, why don't you just do 75,000? Make your life easy. It turns out, though, that this comes to an issue about federal and state court systems. So if the number is below 75,000, the case stays in the state. And the defendant, being Southwest Airlines, cannot request it to be moved to a federal court.
Oh.
And it's only the penny that did it. And so it turns out that a plane was going to be landing in Missouri, and it's in Branson, Missouri, and there's apparently 2 airports in the area. The plane, accidentally, the pilot landed at the wrong airstrip, which was half as long as the normal one, and a passenger on the plane, the defendant, Troy Haynes, knew he was landing at the smaller airport and was petrified, because when the plane landed and the pilots realized they were on a short runway, they hit the brakes, the cabin filled with smoke, that rubber smoke from the screeching of the tires. They came right up to the edge of the runway, and literally a few more feet, there's a cliff that drops off to something after that. They get everybody off the plane to evacuate the smoke smell from the rubber burning on the brakes. 2 hours later, they put them on the plane, and they fly them exactly 7 miles to the real airport they were supposed to land at.
Just put them on a bus.
I know. So he claims that having done this, he was immediately struck with fear and anxiety over potentially crashing in his lawsuit, and he said he suffered severe mental anguish, fear, and anxiety, including a panic attack, which caused him to be removed from another airline later on, and in turn stopped him flying it altogether, which means he had to change jobs, which affected his livelihood. Hence, he sues for $74,999.99.
Sounds to me like a nutcase.
No. So,
no, you don't agree?
it turns out the case is ongoing, and it turns out that this is a lesson. This guy said this is an abject lesson for businesses in many ways. He said, I think the whole filing of this case and buried in the reasoning is an important lesson for business leaders. Here's the line. It's David and Goliath. A small little technicality can derail you. So Southwest was going to rely on moving it to a federal court, which was probably going to be a little more in favor of their case. Maybe forgiving is the word. But he figured that if he got a jury in Branson, which knew the airport and knew the area, they're going to be like, well, he's only asking for $75,000. He had to change his job because you landed at the wrong airport.
You almost missed the Phyllis Diller concert in Branson. How? But come on, John. You would have enjoyed that because you're a daredevil. So you would have liked that probably, the short runway. But so he's saying he's traumatized. Yep. He had to quit his job.
Because he cannot fly any longer. That was a big part of his job, was moving around the country.
What kind of job? Did it say what kind of job?
No,
probably
it did not say.
Probably selling widgets.
But it seems to be a 50-50 proposition that this movement, this little game of keeping it state versus federal, one lawyer said, is a jury going to be more preference to him because it's local, it's Branson, Missouri, versus going to Springfield or wherever the federal court is? He said, up in the air. He said, but it's a clever move because it limits Southwest's ability to manipulate the case. Okay. It keeps it right where it's supposed to be.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I do think I call a little BS on the whole thing about the traumatized.
Well, they got off the plane. It didn't crash. The pilots,
if that was the case, as many air incidents as I had, I'd be a bazillionaire.
I believe, yeah. Oh, talk about
windows blown out of cockpits.
Masks coming down.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
I think that from a business point of view, that it is interesting that a big corporation could get hamstrung by something as simple as 1 cent. Because it comes down to that. It's a penny. A penny is denying them the ability
and he's smart enough to know what he's doing.
It's
like a slip and fall.
Slip and fall. I love that, yeah.
So we have an embarrassment of riches today with our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So I'm going to do them quick, and I was going to pick just one, but I thought it was interesting. There were 4 well-known business birthdays today. So quickly, the first one, William Clay Ford Sr. was born March 14th, 1925. He died at 88 on March 9th. He was the youngest child of Edsel Ford and was the last surviving grandchild of Henry Ford. And he also owned the Detroit Lions football league. The other business birthday is Samuel Truett Cathy. He was also born today in 1921. He died at 93 years old, September 2014. American businessman, investor, author, philanthropist. He founded the fast food restaurant chain Chick-fil-A. So I was not going to include him because, the gays don't like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Although I know a lot of people who eat there. It's closeted.
That's the new closet, eating at Chick-fil-A.
But it is a business birthday. He started the chain in Atlanta with a restaurant called the Dwarf Grill.
Where the H did he come up with?
He came up with the
dwarf
name because it
grill?
was a small size. The restaurant was a small size. He said he and his brother and business partner Ben created the chicken sandwich at the Dwarf Grill, which later became the key signature item at Chick-fil-A. The original restaurant is still there, named the Dwarf House in Atlanta, and they have a couple of other Dwarf House locations. I'm surprised they're allowed to still have that name. Dwarf's not politically correct anymore, is it? Like
I'm
midget.
not even sure what you replace it with, right? Like, I thought dwarfism was actually something that described.
Yeah, well, you can't say anything.
I
When he died, he was worth $4.2 billion.
It's a lot of chicken.
So where the controversy came from, he and his wife started the WinShape Foundation, and its mission was to shape winners, but really promote a traditional marriage and traditional family sort of foundation. So the LGBT community started a boycott with him in 2003. They had donated over the years over $10 million to anti-gay groups, including Focus on the Family, Family Research Council, Exodus, and so forth. After the boycott in 2012, they did release a statement that says from now on they're going to not take a stand and leave policy debate on things such as same-sex marriage to the government.
Okay.
So they've stopped, and actually somebody did look and see, and in their last tax returns of 2015, they have not given any money to anti-LGBT
Does that allow us to
foundation. So now you can eat there. You know, I looked anyway how much they gave. You know what? They'd give $1,000.
Yeah, I know.
But it's still the principle. Another one of your favorite companies, Mike Lazaridis. He's 57 today.
One of my favorite companies?
Yep, 57 today, born March 14th, 1961. A Greek-Canadian businessman, investor, co-founder or founder of BlackBerry, which manufactures the BlackBerry wireless handheld device. We were going to get those. Remember we did that story on BlackBerry?
Canadian, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a Greek-Canadian. He was co-CEO of BlackBerry from 84 to 2012, also vice chairman and chair of the Innovation Committee. He ranked by Forbes as the 17th wealthiest Canadian and 651st wealthiest person in the world, with a net worth of somewhere around $800 million US.
Did you have a BlackBerry?
I did. I liked it.
I
It
did
was
too.
easier to type on.
Well, and I'm glad you
I
said
like the little scroll button.
I didn't mean to set it up that way, but you did it perfectly for me. That was why they failed. They had an ingrained belief, and I had a BlackBerry Pearl. It was so much easier to type on that keyboard. Their belief from the chairman on down was that who would ever give up the keyboard
right.
for this thing that you make all these mistakes on all the time? And as the iPhone gained traction, disbelief ran through BlackBerry. Like, well, okay, if that's happening, we have an encrypted server system. Then they suffered a couple of blackouts when all their corporate accounts went down. And eventually, users came to their own corporations saying, "I don't need the BlackBerry. I want my iPhone." And then Apple did a whole thing on certifying the phone, encryption, the whole bit.
Yeah, because it really was the business person's phone.
Yeah,
Similar to Microsoft products.
the last BlackBerry I had was the Pearl, and I loved the BlackBerry Pearl.
And then our fourth business birthday is Jerry Greenfield, born March 14th, 1951. 67 today, American businessman and philanthropist, founder. He went to Oberlin College, right up the road from where I went to school in Ohio at Marietta. He wanted to wanted to go to medical school, but didn't get in. He tried twice to get into medical school. He didn't get in, so he and his friend Ben Cohen decided that maybe they would open a bagel shop.
A bagel shop?
But they realized it was too much money. It was too much money to get the equipment to open a bagel shop, so they ended up taking a $5 correspondence course on how to make ice cream. 1977.
A $5 correspondence.
They took a $5 correspondence course on ice cream making. So they decided they were going to put ice cream in a college town because they thought college kids would eat a lot of ice cream. So when they started investigating, they found out that, in fact, college kids did eat a lot of ice cream, and every place with a warm climate already had plenty of ice cream places. So that's how they picked Vermont. So they ended up in Burlington, Vermont, an old gas station that went out of business. No bank would give them money. They went to bank after bank after bank, finally found somebody to lend them $4,000, and they started Ben & Jerry's. As soon as they started, Haagen-Dazs tried to sue them for distribution because Haagen-Dazs said that they had the rights to pints.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I'm just telling you.
Really, someone sat in a boardroom and said, "We're going to get him on
And
the
it was
pint."
Pillsbury who owns Haagen-Dazs, and they sued him twice to try to stop Ben & Jerry's
What a
from
waste
distribution.
of money, right?
Right, and they said that they ended up They had a tough time in the winters, and that's why they decided to do the pints and distribute them
Smaller.
because people were buying ice cream in the summer, but in the wintertime they struggled, so they thought, well, let's send it out as pints.
Brilliant.
So they were bought by Unilever in 2000, and it's still a very thriving brand. And I always love stories like this. Both he and his partner, so Jerry and Ben, were arrested in 2016 in D.C. at a Democracy Awakening protest. They're very much forward-thinking, liberal sort of deal. We used to always say Subaru was the Ben and Jerry's of
cars.
Car companies.
Tim, nicely done. I think they were all...
4 of those today.
Talk about it. Yeah, you're right. What did you call it? An embarrassment?
An embarrassment of riches. We usually struggle to find 1 or 2.
And you had 4.
Yeah.
4 top hits. All right, fans of the show, if you are a fan of the show, then you know that Deep Discount has been a partner of ours now for over a year. We are very happy to be working with them. Start your shopping at their site by going to our site, focusgroupradio.com, and click on the shark, the shark logo. Get that out of my system. I will do that till I die. I do not know why. This month, there's the Shark Madness site-wide sale, and many, in fact, I think there's over 90, I forget, it was 90,000 titles or something like that on sale, great prices. Tim and I will curate for you. My first pick may not be for everybody.
I read it.
Okay, so everybody knows, or you should know by now, that I'm a huge fan of animation, CG and traditional. And a movie that I think is really quite beautiful to watch and a fun film is called Spirited Away, and it's by the famous Japanese director Hayao Miyazaki. And it comes from Studio Ghibli. And Studio Ghibli is well known for other titles, including Princess Mononoke, but this falls into the anime category. So anime has a very stylistic look to it, and the stories are constructed a certain way. Beautiful story, available at deep discount, great price, and it looks beautiful on Blu-ray. So that's my pick if you're an animation fan and a fun storytelling fan. Spirited Away just might. Oh, I should also note, it's the second highest grossing anime film of all time worldwide. Oh. Now, can you guess what the second highest grossing film anime would have made?
I have no idea.
It could take a wild guess. Just
would have made?
Yeah, like what do you think that, like, so let's say Star Wars makes $1 billion worldwide or whatever it is. Like, what do you think an anime film makes as the second top?
300 million.
Did
I don't know.
Silenced by Tim, 289 million. You have it in the notes, right?
No, you said that says second highest. I don't know. I'm just guessing 300 million.
All right, what did you pick?
I picked, I love the Cold War. I missed the Cold War. The Muslims screwed all that up.
I missed the Cold War.
We had a very defined
enemy was.
Very defined enemy with lines and borders. But there was a movie I watched which was released, Deep Discount had released it, called Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron.
Yes, I remember Atomic Blonde. This came out like a year ago, maybe?
Right, and so you can get it at Deep Discount, but not part of the sale. When I looked at Deep Discount last time when we talked about Atomic Blonde, what I wanted to recommend was the soundtrack. So they've got the DVD. It's $10.98. You could save about 30% on it.
It's on the sale.
It's a great price. It's on sale, so it's part of the site-wide sale. And when I watched the movie, the first time in a long time for me and the people that I watched it with, the soundtrack fit perfectly. It's one of these Cold War movies with spies in Germany and England and CIA and M16. And
80s, it takes place in 80s?
89.
Okay.
Fall of the Wall and the Russians and everything. But the music is fantastic. Everything from David Bowie, Flock of Seagulls, George Michael, The Clash, Marilyn Manson, Till Tuesday. One of my favorite songs, The Politics of Dancing by Reflex. There's a bar scene. Yeah. Susie and the Banshees, Cities and Dust. If you're a fan of great soundtracks, particularly in the movie. I mean, it's a sexy movie with a great soundtrack. So that was my recommendation.
You recommend the soundtrack.
For Atomic Blonde.
So would you compare the Atomic Blonde soundtrack to Boogie Nights soundtrack?
Yeah.
Which I think the visual is stitched to the music in such a way that you almost can't separate them.
No, and that's why this was too. I thought, wow, that fits so perfectly.
Good call. All right, and the release this week is a movie that I have yet to see. I'm a very bad gay. It's called Call Me By Your Name. It was up for a number of Academy Awards, including Best Actor for Timothée Chalamet. Gay love story, grad student. and a younger boy, and it's everybody who's seen it loves it. They've seen it not once but twice. Me, I'm behind the curve. I got to get this.
It's a Jennifer Aniston chick flick for the gays.
You know, I think that might actually be the perfect little.
You know, Jennifer Aniston it's always she finds the weird one or whatever, and something happens, they fall in love, everybody cries.
I think you may be right.
That's a Jennifer Aniston chick flick for the gays.
So
I guess.
Pick it up from deep discount. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy it, and I think the version I'm getting comes with a DVD and a Blu-ray. I'm going to give I've done this thing lately where I buy a DVD combo pack, and I give my mom the DVD, and I keep the Blu-ray.
Oh, that's smart.
She doesn't have the Blu-ray player, so she's thrilled that she's getting all these DVDs.
So head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, and start shopping away. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
There we go. So, hey, it's Tim Bennett and John Nash here in the Focus Group. Stay with us. We're going to learn about a new proposed LGBT retirement community in Palm Springs, one of our favorite destinations. We've got a reporter from the Desert Sun joining us, Amy DiPierro. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Jetta is absolutely fun to drive. The feel of it when you're going down the road, especially this one, that everybody looks at it and waves at you, and it's just a blast.
Just get a feeling in a Volkswagen you don't get in another car. It's kind of funny to say. It's almost like it's got a mind of its own. It's got feelings. It's got a heart, you know?
My favorite little pieces of the car, my interior, my VR6 motor. Love the VR6 motor. It's a Volkswagen. It's built with quality.
I got the Jetta about 9 years ago. The fun things about the Jetta are, it's a comfortable car. I love driving it with the windows down. Those are my favorite memories.
I knew I wanted Volkswagen, but I chose the Jetta because it was four-door. It had plenty of space for me and my dog. My car is so fun to drive.
It definitely is fun to drive. Cruising down the freeway, somebody passes by, they turn their heads. It's a good feeling.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our site. Go out there to check out Deep Discount, like we mentioned in the last segment, or all the platforms we're on, video and audio. As Tim hinted at, or teased.
Is that what it was?
That was a tease. Or that was a hint and a tease at the same time. You promoted it. Joining us from California, Palm Springs specifically, is reporter Amy DiPierro, and we're going to talk to her about an article she wrote around a development that is proposed and hopefully going to be built in Palm Springs, an LGBT retirement community, facility, whatever you want to call it. It's something you and I have actually talked about a lot as the population ages. So, Amy, welcome to the show.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm sure you have a beautiful day heading your way out there, right?
We sure do. It is, yesterday was a little bit cloudy for Palm Springs, and frankly, we were all thankful for it. Blue skies can actually get old, believe it or not.
Oh.
Well, I'll take your word for it, but here on the Northeast, I see a bit of blue in the sky these days. I'm thrilled. So you wrote a piece called LGBT-friendly retirement complex pitched for Palm Springs, possibly the flagship of a chain. And a developer pair, I want to get this right here, Lauren Ostro and who's the other gentleman here? Paul Alanis, have proposed to do this, and they're doing it in an area that Tim and I know actually very well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the development?
Sure. Well, so, if you've ever read about Palm Springs or visited, you probably know that it has a reputation as being very LGBT-friendly and also a reputation as being quite a place to retire. Those are sort of the two demographics that I'd say that the city is best known for. And so what Ostro and Alanis are proposing is a condominium complex not unlike the sort of active adult communities that you also see in the desert. Think about the company Del Webb, for example, is a developer that's had a lot of success in the California desert, developing these sort of complexes targeted at retirees who, live an active lifestyle. They get out a lot, but they want to be among people of their age group. So that's sort of what this group here in Palm Springs is proposing to do.
So, Amy, you're the real estate, this is Tim, you're the real estate reporter for the Desert Sun, which is one of the big newspapers in the Springs?
Yes, sir. We're the local newspaper in the Coachella Valley.
So what is there, after you had written this story, was there any more discussion regarding, because I know there's been a couple of other developers that have had this same idea, but this one seems to actually have more life to it because they have actually purchased land and these people are developers of casinos prior. So it sounds like that they might have a better chance of some of the others. Do you think it will be well received in Palm Springs?
Well, it's been interesting to see the reaction to the project since we wrote about it. I did get a number of emails from folks saying that they, wanted to contact the developers. It does seem from the comments that we got on the story on Facebook like there was some discussion about, whether there's even a need for this in Palm Springs. Someone commented that the facility is sort of redundant, a LGBT-friendly retirement community inside an already LGBT-friendly retirement community. But then some other folks said, well, actually I can see myself when I settle down in the desert wanting, the sense of community that perhaps I could get at a place like this.
Amy, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought up some of the comments you received back from the article because me and Tim live here on the East Coast. Tim's in Philadelphia. I'm in New York. We love Palm Springs and the California area in general, but, if I were to retire, I suppose I'd want to be dropped into. I would not mind if I was in my 70s being dropped into an existing community as a complex, apartments, condos, the active lifestyle thing, without having to deal with a house that's isolated already. Even though you're in the middle of LGBT heaven in some ways, it does make sense to me, but I could see how the residents might see this as a bit of an irony in some ways.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, my thought about this article as well was I wondered if it's because of LGBT people of a certain age having that sense of community that seems to have left us with the bars or some of the other social outlets we used to have that don't exist anymore as the populations become more integrated. I think that's kind of what you're saying about people saying, well, do you really need it? Is it redundant?
Yes. And I think that to your earlier point about other similar developments that have been proposed or built in Palm Springs, there's one Stonewall Gardens. That's more of an assisted living facility, and it's rather small, 24 units. And then there was another group, Olivia Communities. They are an affiliate of the Lesbian Cruise Company. They purchased a historic property in Palm Springs that they had planned to restore, and that really never got off the ground. So I think that there is some optimism and excitement at this group that, like you said, has purchased the land. They're still in the early days. They haven't presented designs to Palm Springs City Council for them to review. And certainly, I think at this point, they're still, coming up with their funding package, at least at the time that I spoke with them, to get the development underway. But their pitch is really that, they could provide a sort of lock-and-leave condo for people, and also that they could provide facilities for folks that might need some help getting around. So let's say, you want to go see a show at the McCallum Theater in Palm Desert. You could, take advantage of the fact that you're in a community where you could get a shuttle there. Mm-hmm. And oh heck, you'll have friends on the shuttle too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, In general, the last time I was out in the Coachella Valley, I stayed in Cathedral City, Cat City. And I was amazed at how the downtown strip still had many of the restaurants that I had known for years, except for a huge change down by where was it a Hyatt hotel that they took down? There was a big development down at one end near Kaiser's, I think it was, and there is a new hotel complex on the main drag in Palm Springs now, right?
Yes, there is. There's been quite a lot of real estate development right in the heart of Palm Springs, near the art museum. I believe that's what you're referring to.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that there's just general optimism and excitement about the potential for a really vibrant retail and restaurant corridor here in the city.
Are you from Palm Springs, Amy?
No, I moved here in September, so I'm still rather new myself.
Oh, where'd you come from?
I moved from Denver.
Oh, okay. That seems to be quite a shuttle. The Denver Palm Springs.
Palm Springs
trip
yeah.
seems to be the
if
thing to do.
If you know anyone else, I'd love to meet them.
Well, listen, we can arrange something. So, well, thank you for joining us. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about this article to see if, we know that the city council there, I think, is predominantly LGBT.
Mostly LGBT, yeah.
So, and as John mentioned, it's one of our favorite destinations, and hopefully when we get out there later this year, we'll look you up and get you a cup of coffee.
I'll look forward to that.
Thanks, Amy. It's Amy DiPierro from the Desert Sun who talked to us about an article she wrote about a new proposed LGBT retirement community. So, John, would you go to a place like that?
Yeah. Now, if you had asked me about this 10 years ago, I would have said, "Oh, you're crazy. I'd have my own house or something."
Right.
But now, especially after Bob's mom sold her last house and moved into a brand new apartment community, we called her during one of the nor'easters, and she's like, "Whoa, that snow's coming down. It's crazy. I don't have to shovel."
No, it's great.
And I'm going to the hot tub because it's in a glass room, right? She can sit in the hot tub, watch the snow come down. And I think, and what I find fascinating about a community is that now, so she's in a community that this was built in her town, right next to where she's lived for years. So she knows many of the residents who moved in there. And it's fascinating to visit and to see her talk about it because she goes to the movies, she gets off the property
They have lots
quite
of
a lot.
stuff to do. The
But
buses to the
peace of mind is that she's got medical assistance there if she needs it, and she doesn't have to worry about a lot of stuff anymore.
Yep.
So,
or if you want to go visit the grandkids, you lock the door and you go. You don't worry about cutting the lawn or collecting your mail and that stuff.
I do think what Amy said about some of the feedback she got on the article, that it was redundant. Why would you need a...
Well, and maybe I didn't make my point, and I can understand a younger person saying that's redundant, but of people that are the generation before us, I mean, we hear a lot about the sense of, I guess it's more nostalgia of the town community, the center. Yeah. For instance, DuPont Circle in D.C.
Is that still?
Chelsea in New York, the Castro in San Francisco.
Not the same.
You go there now, it's very, very different than what it used to be 20 years ago when we would visit some of those places. Philly, the neighborhood there, it's been totally taken over, and
tea shops,
the gays and lesbians have moved on elsewhere, and so there is that sense of there's no belonging place, I think, in some of these locations. And so while I could see somebody saying, "Oh, we've all arrived, we're all integrated," I think there would be something very cool about being in a community like this, or a retirement community like this, that you feel safe, you can be who you are. And a lot of fun. Our friend Mary Seaton, sadly, we talked about this in the Poconos. She said, there's all these old inns.
Buy an old Borscht Belt.
She said, and you sit on, and in the Poconos, it's so quick to New York, close to New York, close to New England, close to the Mid-Atlantic, big resident populations of gays and lesbians. It would be great to open up 2 or 3 of those as summer places or something.
Do you think it's generational, though, this desire that you're expressing, which I feel as well? Do you think that's a generational issue with the need for community? Because when we came out, you had to have that community, that place to go, the bar to go to,
the restaurant you went to, the coffee shop, the bookstore.
But now if you talk to someone who maybe is 28 or 30, somewhere in that range, they may not feel that need as much because they've enjoyed a life where they came out earlier. Maybe there wasn't as much stigma to it. and their sense of community is just a fun place to meet friends.
I don't know if they don't know what they're missing. I mean, anybody I've talked to, you know, the fun restaurants, the certain places you would go to. How much fun did you have at those places? And maybe it was just because you felt you were doing something.
I still remember a bar that I think you've been to, Uncle
or
Charlie's down on Greenwich Avenue, and it was Wall Streeters, artist types, the whole bit, and people got there to watch TV shows. Dynasty,
a drag queen, a young, you know, there was all kinds of people. I used to love. I love the mix.
And you'd meet all kinds of, and many people ended up becoming friends, right? So it's, you know.
So we'll have to check out the where that proposed location is when we head
right by. Yeah.
So it's a focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a shop talk, and it's great American companies in serious danger of disappearing forever, and it was from a website called The Cheat Sheet. So we're going to go through a couple of them and see if we agree or not. Stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Been in business a week. I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett here. As Tim alluded to, there's how I'll say it in the last segment. He found a great article on the cheat sheet, and it's great American companies in serious danger of disappearing forever. I'll throw a few words out, or names that we all used to remember. Pan American, Pan Am. Oh,
Pan American.
The Pan Am building on
Pan American Airlines?
Park Avenue. Yeah,
doing what we
Pan
do
Am.
best.
That's right. Standard Oil. Well, that was a long time ago. FW Woolworth.
Oh,
the Woolworth. Circuit City. By your stereo, and of course Tower Records. We used to. That's where you went to listen to stuff. That was for us. It was LPs, cassettes, CDs,
and they were in the greatest parts of town. And you'd always, and it was also a good cruising spot.
Oh, I didn't know the cruising thing there. Well,
Friday night, you go there and listen to music. You never went?
Well, I did go to listen to music, but
Well, you poke around, see what's what.
I'll leave it to you. What was the? I'll tell you. I'll have to show. I had a.
What was gross about Tower Records listening stations? Those dirty headphones everybody put on.
I never gave it thought.
Well, now you do. But you give it thought now with a payphone. You put that. You know how many stinky people had that payphone in their ear?
Yeah.
When I think about it now, it's gross.
Yeah.
All right, we're off track.
Okay, so the collapse of companies may seem abrupt, but plummeting revenue and leadership change can predict companies' deaths. But some of these deaths. So. Number one on their list was a surprise to me, actually. Cheat Sheet thinks that Campbell's soup is one of the ones that's poised to be a dinosaur. Do you agree?
Yes. So they said part of it is that people are either now more likely to make soup at home because it's so easy and it's so ingredients are so easily to obtain, fresh ingredients. They said a lot of the ingredients that people read in these condensed soups, they don't understand. There's too many chemicals, and it looks too old-fashioned. And there's so many other soups that have come out. So they are struggling. I know Campbell's Soup is having a tough time. Now they own a bunch of other brands. But they said the nostalgia thing hasn't really caught on with the millennials. Or the millennials. I don't think it's going away.
I don't either, but you raise a great point. It's almost time that they need a brand intervention of some sort where they redesign the labels. What's your second one on the list?
The other one on the list they had was Crocs.
Oh, may they die.
With those plastic shoes that
you know what I wrote down here? No-brainer, hideous shoes. A fad. I've never been a Croc fan. So if that company disappears, sorry folks, I'm not a fan. Goodbye, Crocs.
Crocs. The other one there, have you eaten at any of these places?
I have not in a long time. The last time, all right, so Bloomin' Brands.
Right.
It's a holding company. I guess it's Outback Steakhouse, Carrabba's Italian Grill, Bonefish Grill. I've heard of Bonefish Grill. Yeah. I've eaten at none of these. Certainly not an Outback in forever.
You get there and get the Bloomin' Onion at
Bloomin'
the Outback
Onion, right. So you think this is a ripe one to hit the skids too?
Well, I think it's, there's a number of fast food brands in here. This isn't really fast food. This is
mall restaurant,
I think. Fast casual.
Yeah.
Or I forget what they call that. I don't know. I don't know anybody who eats at any of them. I suppose in some resort communities, or we joke there's an Applebee's in Times Square here, right? For instance, or Fridays.
We got an Applebee's upstate. I love watching that lot fill up. Next one,
Harley-Davidson. I was surprised by this one. They said that millennials aren't interested in motorcycles. They got to get off the millennial thing. I don't think.
But Tim, they're not. They're also not interested in cars.
Yeah.
So I don't see why a four-wheeled vehicle would be any different from a two-wheeled vehicle. Right?
I'm waiting for the autonomous motorcycle to come.
Oh God.
So they said that they're going to shutter their Kansas City, Missouri plant in 2019. Layoffs will start there mid-year.
Could you imagine being in that?
Sales of clothes. Now they tried to for a while. Harley-Davidson tried to attract more women riding motorcycles, and then they did a big push toward African American and Latino and consumers, but I don't know how it went. They seem to go through CMOs like we would change our underwear. I mean, they kind of...
Oh my God, they've gone through a lot. And they stuck with a number, like one or two agencies. So it's not an agency issue, but if you're not interested in buying a chopper, I wrote down here, who wants a chopper?
I wanted to buy one. When I lived in Oregon, I wanted a motorcycle because everyone had one out there.
But you could have gotten a quiet one.
But just because the roads were vast and wide open, you can drive. The East Coast, I think you take your life in your hands.
Yeah. Next brand up is Sears. Now, anybody who's paying attention to retail news would know that Sears is severely struggling. I will be upset when the brand goes away because I associate Kenmore and the quality of Kenmore appliances with Sears.
Craftsman Tools.
Yeah, and Craftsman Tools. So I actually think
When's the last time you bought something at Sears? It's like that old. And I ask you that. I ask you that like that old Seinfeld. They were closing the pizza shop, and the guy's like, "Oh, I came in here every day for a grape soda and a slice." He's like, "Thanks, thanks for the business." It's like, you haven't been in 20 years. We're closing. So Sears is struggling. Number 6. I thought they already went out of business. Aeropostale.
Teen Focus.
Teen Focus clothing chain. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2016 and announced the closing of 154 underperforming stores. But all of these kind of mall stores are getting a lot of competition online or from...
And I wrote down the decline of the mall in general.
Forever 21 and H&M. What's the number 7?
This was the owner of Applebee's and IHOP, the holding company. It's called Dine Equity. And it's struggling. The company planned to shutter up to 135 Applebee's nationwide and up to 25 IHOPs. Now, I have not seen an IHOP in, I don't know, since we did our last road trip, perhaps. They're certainly not in some of the bigger
There's
areas.
one in the neighborhood of Philly, which is packed all the time on Sundays.
There's one uptown, actually, I want to say it's not the Bronx. Maybe it is, but I ate at IHOP here in Manhattan once, and it was packed. It was packed, and
Applebee's, I just went with Matt. I went to pick up my dogs, and he and I went there for a burger. It was affordable and delicious. And I didn't know what to expect. It was quite good. I was like, wow.
It was affordable and it was delicious.
It was like a $7.95 hamburger with all the fixins. I mean, it was great. It was
not bad. Well, when you give a thumbs up, it's usually
and they have a great salad.
Customer.
They have a great salad. Number 8, no surprise, Kodak. That poor brand has been limping around like a dead horse forever. It's or a wounded horse. Although they say after their 2012 bankruptcy, they attempted an unlikely comeback in cryptocurrency. Of all things, and they said their stock jumped up 200%. But you and I need to do a special on cryptocurrency. We don't know what that is.
And Kodak, by the way, was one of the first people to patent the chip that takes digital pictures.
Oh, really?
They created their own demise, which is a very, very strange thing. The next one up is a lot of restaurants on here. Old Country Buffet.
You've been in that?
Never even heard of it. So I wrote down, I'm like, never heard of it. Bye-bye. Yeah. I don't mean to be bad.
No, I would love to take you there just because.
Like you took me to a Cracker Barrel once. And were we in Kentucky when we went to that Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, you had to in Kentucky. This Old Country Buffet would. The Chinese tour buses come in, and the high school kids.
Doors open. And
I would like to just take you there to enjoy.
There like a fly on the wall.
Number 10, we talked about this company before, American Apparel.
Yeah, Dove Charney.
They spun out of control when Charney went a little crazy there.
Number 11, Nine West, another retail chain. I believe it is in Chapter 11 currently with $1.5 billion. That's a B.
Yeah.
$1 billion in debt.
Are those cheap shoes? Yeah, shoes.
Yeah, again, an ailing retailer with debt exceeding 19 times adjusted earnings, which is from stock point of view is just crazy. So they're hanging on, but they're not for much longer.
Number 12 surprised me, maybe not. Macy's.
Yeah.
Of course, every town. Macy's has been one of the sole survivors of all these localized large retail department stores. But they said, and as you mentioned about the demise of the mall in general, online retail. And I'll tell you what, I went to Macy's recently to go buy a polo shirt. And they said, go on. They all told me to go online. They said, oh, you have to go online for that. And I said, I want to buy it here.
I want to buy, yeah.
They're just not stocking things like they used to, and people are just shopping online. I want to try it on. I want to look at it.
So, you know.
I had them all to myself.
Next one, well, yeah, you're in the department. You've got a stack of shirts in front of you, right? Next is Payless Shoes. They sought bankruptcy protection in 2017. They're restructuring their debt right now. They plan to close up to 800 stores.
What are the drag queens going to do?
Yeah, really. And when you shutter 800 stores, the 800, just think about that. That's the majority of your presence in retail. So I do believe the article is correct in putting them on the hit list here.
This number 14, Quiznos, is another one of these.
This is true fast food, right?
It used to be a fast-growing restaurant. It was kind of like a toasted Subway sandwich, essentially.
Yeah.
And they had that goofy character that the Martin Agency developed that was a bomb, I think. What was number 15?
This was
These two, I don't know.
Relativity Media, which was actually masterminded by Zach Galifianakis and Kristen Wiig.
Why do I know him?
Zach Galifianakis does, Between Two Palms, and he's a comedian. He also is on Baskets, which is a hysterical show, by the way.
The Hangover.
Oh my God, yeah, and you should definitely watch Baskets.
Yeah, now I know.
He was the crazy brother in the Hangover, but that's a company many people have not heard of. It's more of a production company, so we wouldn't be surprised. And the next one is also another.
Some blood screening thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Pass on that. Number 17, Claire's, where little girls went to get their ears pierced.
Oh, that's the mall store, right?
Mall store. Another one that's in trouble. What's number 18?
This you and I are not surprised about because we know someone who owns franchises, Subway.
After the founder died, they ran into trouble.
And they're changing. They demand that their stores rebrand. It costs them a fortune. They have to buy their supplies from the franchises have to get it from Subway. I don't know. It sounds like
$5 foot long price. The price leader, or the what do they call that? When you're losing money.
It's a loss leader.
Loss leader. What did I say? Price leader.
Thank you, Garrett.
You're
Thank
good
you.
today,
Garrett's
baby.
really on. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're doing that $5 foot long, which nobody makes any money on. They think, oh, they'll buy a drink.
And once you do that, you can't reverse. You can't say, okay, now the sandwich is $7. It's $5.
It's like Banana Republic. Would you ever go to Banana Republic and pay full price for anything? You know the next week it's going to go on sale.
Yeah. This next one surprised me.
Tiffany
and Company. Yeah.
Tiffany and Company, the jewelry store. I was only surprised because, again, a lot of Tiffany are in high-end malls.
Yep.
And if people aren't going to the mall, and if you knew you wanted to get a specific thing, I guess you could just order it online. But I think with jewelry, you're buying a diamond, you're buying a watch, you still want to look at it, don't you?
Yes, and do you think this is also a generational issue?
Could be.
Because for me, I was always taught that if you wanted to make an impression, you got the blue box with the white ribbon, and everybody knew that was a Tiffany's
No matter
box.
what it was.
Right, exactly. Now, I'm not sure the brand has that cachet with someone who's under 40, maybe?
Yeah. Probably right. Number 20, the Limited. Now, I thought they did go out, and they actually did. They shuttered all 250 of their stores in 2017, but they said, don't be upset. You could still get everything online. So it's not goodbye. It's just they changed their buying premise from being mall stores to being an online retailer.
So
they said the Limited, they may not survive because people might not be going online to look at their stuff.
When I was at the library, the main branch yesterday, it's right around the corner from Grand Central Station, and this article you had just sent to me, and I had read it on my commute down to the library. And as I was getting off the subway to go through I love walking through Grand Central. It's like a Union Station in Washington or in Philly. It's a true train station. It's big, high ceilings. I walked by a Warby Parker showroom. So, Warby Parker makes the inexpensive eyeglasses, right? So that, I think, is the model of the future for retail. It's a showroom. You go in, you try on what you want, then you go to a computer, and then a sales associate orders your glasses with your prescription, and they arrive a few days later via the mail, right? It's like Bonobos does that now. They have some sample clothing you could try on, then you order online.
Yeah, but didn't you in the...
I would rather just
but
buy
didn't
it.
we used, on a Saturday, if you knew you were going out or somewhere special, or you wanted to get
buy
a
a shirt,
T-shirt,
yeah,
or you wanted to get a
T-shirt, yeah.
shirt, or you wanted to get a pair of khakis or something, you went to J. Crew, Banana Republic, or Brooks Brothers, or whatever, and you bought the thing, and you had it.
And you wore it that night.
You were excited.
Yeah.
But I don't want to wait for something to come in the mail.
I just don't think...
I don't know. I'm an old man.
You need to move out to
Do you
Palm
boys
Springs.
shop at stores? These are
shop
young
stores
millennials.
or
Do you
online?
boys shop at stores?
Neither. It's so annoying. I hate going to stores,
yeah.
and I hate buying online because I don't know what size I am.
Yes.
For
All right, so
everybody,
Garrett, are like a lot of guys, and I'm just going to generalize, are easy shoppers. We often know exactly what we want.
Yep.
We want it
Yeah.
right away. I hate having to try a bunch of stuff on, and I hate ordering online. So what would be your ideal experience if you knew exactly what your size was and you could click, click, click?
The last time I did go to a store and I needed like jeans, so I just picked out like 10 pair, and the 5 that fit the best I kept, and just went in, went out, and that's it. Like, yeah, just like I don't know, just
Hit and run.
Hit and run, yeah, exactly.
Find a pair that fits, find 5 colors, and you're good for,
But then right
few
before that, I
years.
ordered jeans online, and the 34 and 32 got switched, so then they didn't fit, and then I didn't know how to
It's a
return
pain in
it.
the ass to
and I
return
still
them.
have them. Yeah, it's just.
Nash tried to be modern like that with the Bonobos brand. How many times you returned the stuff? About 10 times before he finally gave up.
Tell them what I said to the customer service rep when she said, "Why are you returning them?"
I don't remember what you
I said, "I'm a cyclist. I have big thighs. The pants don't fit well." I'm a cyclist. I have big thighs. What a fool. What a fag.
I can't believe Toys R Us wasn't on that list.
Well,
I
that's
know.
already gone, isn't it?
I know. It's already out on the way out.
UK, they're all gone, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, someone said use your gift cards. They're still taking them. It's funny because this list comes out every year, and whether we should actually do a checkup on it to see, or a follow up as to whether they've gone out of business or not. But those are brands that are in peril. So hey, thanks for joining us today. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, John. Thank you, Allie. Is she back? I don't even see her in there yet.
Is she back? I don't see her in there
Thanks
yet.
to Amy
Write her
DiPierro
up.
from the Desert Sun to talk to us about John's in mine and everyone's future retirement home in the Springs. We're going to go out there and check that out this fall, perhaps. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com, not only to learn more about our show, and of course our new podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which comes out every Tuesday morning. You can find out how to download everything there, as well as click on the Deep Discount logo while you're there and start shopping away. All this month is a site-wide sale. John, do your shark. Thanks to our friends at Volkswagen. If it were not for Volkswagen, as we head into our 10th year, which next week is our 10th year anniversary show. So John and I are going to share some of our favorite moments from the last 10 years. But if not for Volkswagen, we would not be able to join you. So please, if you're in the market for a new car, check out everything VW has to offer at VW.com. Remember to arrive...
You're the one who created
this. Now you're screwing me up.
Don't text and drive.
Arrive alive. Did I forget something?
To mean it. You forgot to mean it and own it.
Don't text and drive. Arrive alive. See you Tuesday on TFG Unbuttoned.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.